Hello Factorio people, welcome back to the broadcast from Krastorio. Episode 21. Still working our way backwards, making big designs for 5,400 signs per minute. Seeing what issues arise from that. This is my second attempt at recording this episode after a pretty dire attempt before, so maybe this one will go a bit quicker. You want to do the old like, comment, subscribe? That would be great. And then let's jump straight into it, shall we? Alright, this was the state of the base when we last left it. I was going over some old footage actually, and I think at one point I said that the low density structures would be the only thing that doesn't need to be built in the grid sections. That was extremely 100% wrong. I don't even know why I said it, because that was never my intention. I went through and I made some trains, 1-4 trains. Some of the trains were small. Energy control units, sorry. Is that this one? Turn the tags on. Yeah, energy control units. These need to be 1-4 trains, ideally. That just means you have to go through all the stations and double check that they're unloading properly, because otherwise they get stuck, because they say wait until they're empty and then they're never empty. I definitely did that with sulfuric acid, which meant I had to fix the long-standing issue up here with this one train that was small. I said I couldn't squeeze it in, but I could squeeze it in. I did manage to squeeze it in. What is this? What is this, man? Sort it out. The pollution cloud is still something I'm trying to keep an eye on. The northern spread is okay, just because we've got a lot of pollution filters up here. So to try and stem the tide south, I've done a wall of pollution filters being served with these large roboports, which I've never properly acknowledged. They're just big roboports. They're very big roboports. This is the logistics area, this is the construction area. So I'm just plopping them down, just to make sure that we've got some coverage everywhere. Of course, we still need the logistics robots to deliver fuel. So every station, every unloading station is fueled, served by logistics bots. They've got such a huge coverage, I'm not belabouring a nice system for them, I'm just going to plop them down. So that should be okay. Right, and then I wanted to sort of solve this that was upsetting me last time, where I landfilled the lake and then realised I shouldn't have landfilled the whole lake. I'm going to want some water coming in. Trying to not just bung water down in a one-tile section that would feed a machine. It doesn't seem right to me. So I remembered there was a mod I've used before, it's called Factorio. I really like it. So I installed that, which obviously needed to restart the game and everything, so. Factorio adds a whole bunch of different coloured concretes, refined concretes, hazard concretes. It also lets you put down the actual earth, as well as having its own water recipe. So I deactivated the other waterfill mod and I'm going to use Factorio. This needs explosives, so it's a little bit more balanced, I guess. So I made a little swatch, I believe it's called a swatch, just of like examples of all of the terrain types in the game. So you can make these with Factorio quite easily, it's just stone. And then that let me sort of tidy this up. So I thought if I use landfill to do a lake, I will tidy the edges up with sand to make it look a little bit more like we've just dumped land. And then I tried to tidy this up and make this look a little bit more natural, even though it's obviously not. All the terrain types have they're numbered, but they're numbered in a weird way. So grass 1 is not actually called grass 1, it's just called grass. And then dirt, red desert is red desert 0. But then sand is sand 1. I don't know if that's just because that's how it's called in the code. So no one ever needed to see that, so they never bothered to tidy it up. But it's kind of annoying. It doesn't really matter a huge amount. And so then there's just an assembler here, so we just have loads of stone in this chest and say, oh, I want a whole bunch of red desert 4, please. Actually, let's do grass. Let's do grass 3, just because I'm more likely to actually use that. And then that just goes into a purple chest and gets pushed to here. So then when I think, oh, that's enough, I can just go and pick it up. And then if I ever put it in my junk, it'll go back here as well, so I'll know exactly where everything is. In theory. So yeah, Factorio also comes with this lawnmower thing, which just gets rid of decoratives. It also gets rid of old biter stuff. So that's nice, I guess. It's pretty helpful. And yeah, coloured concrete, I don't know if I'm going to use the coloured concrete really, but... Okay. So after that brief little housekeeping phase, we can look at what we really want to look at today. And that's designs. Big old designs. Big old designs. So this is the old lithium build in the megabase. Lithium is one of the things I want to look at today, because it has an annoying loop. We've been looking at the sulfuric acid loop, what I'm calling loops, before. Sulfuric acid goes everywhere, it's needed in a lot of places in varying quantities, and we're going to look at more of that stuff later. But lithium also has an interesting loop, because it is literally a loop. The output goes back into the input, but also with the extra productivity that you get byproduct chlorine, which you can use to enrich metals. You need to mine the rare metals, so there's a lot going on here. So to start with, I just built the design. So I expanded this into the megabase design, super megabase design version of it. This just needs to be seeded with some lithium chloride, because that's all you need to start. Lithium chloride and water makes your lithium and gives you the chlorine that you need to kickstart the process back. Gonna get mineral water from matter. It's relatively cheap. 100 mineral water for 5 matter. That's pretty good. And then yeah, chlorine byproducts into a tank, and then when the tank has sufficient amount to not worry about drying up, we'll pump the excess over here. And we could do something with it. We can mine rare metals with it, of course. Doesn't seem hugely relevant to me anymore, because we can get raw rare metals from matter. It's not too expensive to do that. I believe it's 8 rare metals. So it's the other way around. 8 matter gives you 10 raw rare metals, whereas in comparison 5 matter gives you 10 iron ore. So in terms of how expensive the game considers it versus iron ore and copper ore, it's not much more expensive. So it might be more valuable to do it the other way around, in fact, to take any excess chlorine we do end up having and using that to mine rare metals to turn into matter. So using basically the free chlorine. You also need the chlorine to enrich the rare metals, sort of, because you need hydrogen chloride. So it might be the case that we take the excess chlorine to a rare metal enrichment station. But rare metals mostly need to go into, forgive them all, they mostly need to go into immersium plates. I should have had Factorio calculator open. already. There we go. One needs 70,000 rare metals a minute. That's 13 purple belts, fact fans. And of that, 60% of it needs to go into immersion plates. So only 4, 5, 6, about 6 purple belts go elsewhere in the base. So you won't need a huge amount of ore enriching for that, assuming that your rare metals, you make the rare metals on site with the immersium. It's very hard, in my opinion, to look at and think about which production lines are best to have things made on site and which are best to have brought in. I tried to come up with a rubric, with a heuristic for, oh, if it's more than half, then I'll do it on site or something. But that doesn't quite work because of how, you know, various stack sizes of trains and of items in cargo wagons and stuff. It doesn't quite work. So electronic circuits is a good example. I've made an electronic circuit over here, if you remember. And this does 8 red belts. We need... So we're going to need 3 lots of this. But we need 3 lots of this on the assumption that everything comes in via a train. But 12 belts need to go into red circuits. So it might just be that we only have this one unique station, and the rest of the green circuits that are made go straight into red circuits. It's possible that making this so early was a mistake. So yes, that's my advice really, is to look at and see, before you go too ham on a big build. So like lithium, for example, is... lithium's, again, it's a special case because even though 87% of the lithium needs to go into lithium-sulfur batteries, because you only need 4 purple belts of lithium to do the whole 5,400 cards a minute, you would need so much lithium, you would need basically this anyway, and then you would also need to do the lithium-sulfur batteries somehow on the end. So again, there isn't really a hard and fast rule for make it on site versus ship it in via a train. You kind of just have to look at each item individually and see what your requirements are and how fast things are made. And it's mostly because these are made in a stupid, rubbish electrolysis plant that only ever has a crafting speed of 1 anyway. So you can see I've seeded this with the lithium chloride, no problems. Everything's fine. Except for the rail spaghetti. Rail spaghetti is not something I'm really worried about. As long as everything snaps to the grid. So when I'm building the base infrastructure, as long as I put the curves and the T-junctions aligned with the grid, the rest of it should just tie up naturally. So obviously you want to avoid high throughput lanes, so I'm wary of building anything more down here because that puts a lot of strain on this long piece of rail. But as long as this, like, if this loops up with something around here eventually, like maybe this will loop up here, it will be fine. Once this copper patch dries out, this can connect up with this, so it just gives trains more routes through, basically. Okay, cool, so that's lithium done. What's next on the list? So yes, it is the I'm going to do the immersion plates next. Apparently, I don't know why I'm talking like this is a surprise to me. Just because I load my save file and then see what did I do. Yeah, so having said all of that, I am going to do the immersion plates next. I was going to do rare metals, but yeah, once I found out that you can make the rare metals in a decent enough quantity on site for the immersion plates, it seemed more sensible to do it like that. You don't need such a huge amount that you can't enrich the rare metals as well, and enrich the rare metals just in one lab next to it, rather than having it in line like the copper ones are, for example. So I'm going to bring the chlorine in via train for this. Hopefully that works. And then a matter plant. 2 matter plants, each outputting more than a purple belt of raw rare metals, enriching it on site. So it's a bit cursed, this one. Sorry, it's a bit cursed. Hey, that's not even attached to anything. I'll fix that later. So yeah, this will do... Oh, my mods have moved around. 178 plates per second. 10,000 a minute. So we'll need about 3 stations of this. So that isn't too bad. What's the ratio of... That's okay. It's pretty scaled. So this will need about 200... Oh no, that's vastly overscaled as well. So this won't even need 200 chlorine per second. And just to close that loop, the lithium plant is a surplus of... That's 28 a second, is that right? I feel like that is right. That's right if this plant is working full tilt, but I don't think this plant is working full tilt. I think in my own maths, with my pen and paper here that I have next to me, the actual real surplus was 48 a second. Because if this works full tilt, but this doesn't take all of the hydrogen chloride back. Yeah, so this overproduces. So I'm hoping, it's basically just fingers crossed mode at the moment, that when all the lithium stations are down and all of these plate stations are down, the amount of chlorine, extra chlorine around the base is enough, especially if none of it needs to go to mining the rare metals. And we'll just have some runoff. We'll have a rare metal mining station in case there is like a backup of chlorine here. Because obviously I'd rather use the chlorine than just burn it off. That does seem extremely wasteful. It is free chlorine, but still. Alright, let's find a nice, neat little place in the base for the plates to go. I said a nice, neat little place, mate. What is this? Tried to be smart and squeeze it into a grid section, and I hate it. Because I really don't want any of my trains to be 1-4 trains anymore. I want all my trains to be 1-4 trains. So I changed the chlorine to make sure that that is true. And then immediately went, oh, this can only be a 1-4 train because to fit in the grid section. And I don't want 1-4 trains. It causes a headache. If all your trains are the same size, then it just is easier later. So this does literally fit in a grid section, but it doesn't last very long here. You will also notice slightly that I changed these. Having the alpha, beta, gamma, epsilon. Am I just going to read the entire Greek alphabet? Apparently. It was a cute idea, but I still at a glance couldn't see how many of the stations there were. So I was still looking at 10,000 a minute and going, oh, well I still need to go to the calculator to work out how many. So I've just done the normal thing, what any normal person would do, and just do 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, and then I can just go, oh, okay, so we're going to need 3 of these. Simple. So yeah, I don't want this in the grid section. It doesn't last very long. So killed the existing immersion plate build. The petroleum is still working its way through. Yeah, so I will move this at some point in the future once I realise that it is garbage and doesn't work. Okay, cool. So we got the lithium, we got the immersion plates. Mostly we're trying to just make sure that this system can run all of the time, the energy control units. So now that we've got the lithium, could probably make sure that the lithium batteries are up to scratch. So this is the lithium batteries in the megabase, the existing megabase. And oh no, I have to talk about acid again. Acid. This needs Even this modest build here needs 40,000 acid a minute. So I thought, what realistically is... Set myself a little challenge. What realistically is the most amount of sulfuric acid you can get from one oil refinery? Fully beaconed and moduled oil refinery. And I came up with this. I'm quite happy with this. Oh, mining productivity 39 has finished. So these are taking a long time now. These scale a lot faster in Krastorio than they do in vanilla, rather than... So, mining productivity 40 needs 320,000 cards. So yeah, that's taken a long time. Anyway, so this is the sulfuric acid, H2SO4. That old rhyme about the man, he thought it was H2O, it was actually H2SO4. Apparently that's a funny joke, even though a man died, so... I don't think that's very funny. Sorry. Yeah, so you fully beacon and module a oil refinery, and then you do absolutely horrible cursed pipe spaghetti to get everything back out again. And then this will make about 30,000 sulfuric acid a minute. And you just use if you're making crude oil from matter, you can also just quickly make the iron plates from matter here as well. I elected to use the small chemical plants just so that the footprint was a little bit tidier. Of course you can use advanced chemical plants, but it was kind of hard to get it all squeezed in. I suppose given the size of this footprint, it probably isn't too much of a difference. One chemical plant for the heavy oil is easy, but you get a lot of light oil out of that, and then you would have to squeeze that in. And this water is also garbage, but whatever. You need more than one pump's worth of water for all of this. So this does about 30,000 a minute, which is nice because that is enough to do the low density structure build. So I did finally use this space for that. But it doesn't solve the immediate problem of even the small lithium sulfur battery build uses more acid than that. So even though this was that was a worthwhile endeavour, and I will certainly be using this again in other builds that don't need a gargantuan amount of sulfuric acid, it doesn't solve the lithium battery problem. So the other option, having now explored all of the options for sulfuric acid, bring it in by train, make it via crude oil. The other option is to just use the matter and stabilizers into sulfur strategy. And then you just need sulfur and iron ore, iron plates, and you can just make sulfuric acid like that. So let's try it like that and see how that goes. So that looks like this. Make the copper on site, enrich the copper, seeing as you're already making the sulfuric acid. Bring in the charge matter stabilizers, do that whole thing again. It's fine. It's good, actually. Quite like it. It uses a lot of matter stabilizers, but I'm starting to realise that that's not really a problem. You lose 1% of them as you go along, but it's not really that bad, is it? Let's be honest. And now that I've got a decent strategy for builds and recharging them and stuff, it's okay. So the sulfur comes out. Thankfully this doesn't need that many iron plates, so I can just bring the iron plates in via a train, make the sulfuric acid, use some of the sulfuric acid to enrich copper, use those copper plates and that sulfuric acid, and bring in lithium via trains to make lithium sulfur batteries. You remember last time I said what's the longest item name in this mod? It's probably lithium sulfur batteries. So I've just called them lithium batteries. You'll forgive me for that one. And the existing base had lithium battery trains at 1-2 trains, in direct contravention of my wishes. So I'll need to fix that as well. I also, almost purely by accident, remembered the long-forgotten knowledge of the fact that efficiency modules go into beacons. Who the hell ever does that? Nobody. So once I realised that that is in fact a game mechanic, I just squeezed in some, when there was space, when I've done builds like this where I can't fully beacon a machine because it would work too fast for no reason, I then thought, oh well, I can just put efficiency modules in, can't I? So I went around a few builds and tidied that up for modest gains. I mean, the reason no one ever really does it is because the beacon itself always uses 480 kilowatts. So you're kind of spending energy to save energy. Minimum consumption, max consumption 1.58 megawatts. Max consumption 1.45 megawatts. So what was that? 300 and something kilowatts I just saved over. I mean, it's definitely better than not using them. Of course it is. But still. Why does this keep stalling? Sulfuric acid. Copper. I don't know. Thought it was fine. Copper ore. Excuse me? Oh, this needs some speed modules. Alright, that's fine. It's just not getting enough matter in. That's all. This is using a lot more matter than I anticipated, clearly. 235 a second. That's still 1,000 matter in a cube, so that's still only 1 cube every 4 seconds. Oh, and also, I've not done the priority on this to cycle the copper back through, so that is also causing a problem. Man, I'm so terrible. I did, a little while ago, and never really mentioned it, just limited this train to only carry 1,000 matter at a time, just to make sure that the matter can permeate around the base a little bit quicker. Talked about this before with the charge matter stabilizers. So I upped production of charge matter stabilizers just so that they were made faster, and so this chest was backed up more often. So the average is still the same, but it just means that if a train has to go to 2 places in quick succession, it doesn't take forever to get the 4,000 matter stabilizers that go into one train. So the same principle with the matter, like just by limiting the train to 1,000 cubes at a time, it's still not moving very often. But if 2 trains have to go in quick succession, it doesn't take forever to do those 2 journeys. Yeah. Okay, cool. How's the pollution doing, I guess? That's a good answer. Good question. So I made a couple of markers just to see what the benefit of it was. The pollution mass is what I'm calling the very dark red. The very dark red. The light red doesn't go as fast because the pollution dissipates very slowly when the numbers are very low. But when the numbers are very high, it dissipates. I know what I'm trying to say. The natural pollution absorption of the terrain will deal with this, but deal with it very slowly, whereas the pollution will be sucked up via these, and then the high numbers will dissipate into these empty spaces, into the vacuum. Faster than the numbers will dissipate from the edge. So you can see up here, for example, the very light red is quite large, but the numbers are very low in comparison to where the mass is. So you can already see the pollution was up here at one point. So this has solved it up here. And these pollution filters, I added another row to speed it up, does seem to be doing something from down here. So the way forward might just be walls of pollution filters rather than walls of defences or anything actually useful. And of course there are no biters in what we can see. So it's only when the pollution extends to outside our radar range that we would ever need to worry about biters anyway, so... Alright, let's move on, shall we? So, just a small little housekeeping phase here at the end. Well, what was originally going to be the end. Make all the trains 1-4 trains. Add some more matter to the base. Matter production was finally not keeping up with demand for cubes, because we're using so many cubes. It's quite hard to work out your matter demand because of how the game calculates production and consumption. So we're producing matter here directly, but the game also considers us to be producing matter when we turn the cubes back into that liquid matter. So every time we turn a cube into matter, we're adding 1,000 matter to this chart. And every time we turn matter into a cube, we're consuming 1,000 matter to this chart. So it's kind of hard to see. I guess you could just look at the cubes directly. So over an hour, we're actually exactly the same, which implies a good thing. Anyway, I could not be bothered to change the crude oil plants into matter plants. Obviously we're not using much crude oil at all anymore. So I wanted to make sure that even if we did need some crude oil somewhere in the base, because we needed a vanishingly small amount of petroleum for a couple of processes, fertilizer and something else. Can't remember. I think maybe it's just fertilizer actually. Is it nitric acid? Not sure that's true. So I did want to make sure that there were some generic trains going around carrying the crude oil. So all I did was I just put 2 extremely fast matter plants here. So the crude oil trains do move around quite a lot, but they are at least able to go to the places that need it. I think there's just 2 things that use the fertilizer. The petroleum goes to the fertilizer in 2 places. So I am still waiting for these trains to finally empty before I demolish this, just because I'm being stubborn, even though I could just delete 400,000 petroleum from the world and I would not notice that in the slightest. So yeah, it's quite easy to just turn things into matter. I added a second train going around. One train was not keeping up anymore, so that's good progress. Added some more matter assemblers to turn things into cubes, so it's good. It's a good system. So this was going to be the end of the episode, as I say. I was recording yesterday. The episode was an utter mess. I had to sneeze very quickly at one point. Sneeze right into the microphone. It was awful. And then I sneezed again 10 minutes down the line. I felt this one coming this time, so I muted my mic, sneezed, and then carried on talking for 5 minutes without unmuting my mic. So I blame the heat yesterday evening. So I went, screw this, stopped recording, but I still wanted to play Factorio, because I just stopped talking about Factorio in the middle. I don't want to use the phrase that we're all thinking, because it starts with the word blue. So I thought, what can I do? What can I do to just carry on playing Factorio, but not do anything too crazy for the end of the episode? To just tack it on to the end of the episode, a little bit of bonus content for you. So I thought I'd finally look at them all, because the starter base is doing basically nothing. now. It's just space that we could be using for other things. It's just getting in the way. So let's have a look at that. Mall 2.0. Let me take a drink of my coffee, rather than taking a drink of my coffee when the recording is paused. Because I'm very good at making online content. So all I did was I just made lines of assemblers, and then went through and went, well, what do we need, what do we not need? And you need about this many things, and then you need about this many intermediate products. Ish, roughly. There will be some things I've missed. I've left some space. There's going to be loads of space here. I'm going to use the buffer chest system, which I've seen. Some people use this, some people use a yellow chest. Having set it all up, I'm going to use yellow chests in future. The only reason you would use the buffer chest system is that if you're a stickler for having your items go back to the right place. Which I feel like 90% of the time they do anyway. So if I take one of these storage warehouses and put a build instruction down here, the bots will take them and they'll build them. Of course they will. When you then delete them, if you've set the filter for a yellow chest to say this chest is where these go, they'll go there. If this was also a yellow chest and it had some in anyway, but no filter, I believe they would still go into this one? Is that true? So you put this as a filter, but you also put some in here anyway. And then you trash these. Oh, they've gone over there. Okay, alright, that does change things ever so slightly then. That does change my opinion ever so slightly. My issue with this is it just takes a very, very long time to set all of these up. And even though I went through and did the logistics requests for them, I still realised after I'd done all of that that it's best to just give it the maximum anyway, so that... Because if you don't tell this to just fill it up, just request the maximum that will go into a chest, when this is over 500, they'll end up in this bit anyway. So I'm not sure I really get it. I'm not sure I really get it, using green chests here instead of just using yellow chests. But whatever, I've done it now. The smarter pasting mod was less than helpful, to be honest with you. You can do request chest stack size of 5 times ingredients, but sometimes 5 times ingredients is not enough. But if you don't have the mod enabled, and you do the right click, the copy and paste thing, the default Factorio behaviour is like 10 seconds of production. So for this, in an assembly machine, advanced assembly machine, with a crafting speed of 5, this will just ask this for like 4,000 iron plates and 4,000 gear wheels and stuff like that. So it's like, there's just not a good way to do it. So you just got to do it manually, unfortunately. So I went through and I did all that. And we can get to the good bit at least after that. The actual good bit. So you bring some trains in. You just add one extra train to your system that never... But you don't ever worry about it leaving the mall. I feel like this is the best way to do it. Because then you don't need circuit conditions for these. They just sit here forever. If you add a circuit condition and you say only bring me a train when this is actually empty, that's fine. It just complicates things a little bit more. You have to worry about setting up all of those circuit conditions, which takes a long time. If you just add one extra train to your system so that you don't ever have a train deficit, and you just have one of the trains sitting here ready to unload the item into a box like this, it's foolproof. Of course, you still need to use the same train size as you're using everywhere else, because if you say, I only want a 1-4 train for this, then your 1-4 train goes to the stacker and then doesn't go anywhere until this train goes. Of course, if you load the trains and then have the trains go to a stacker afterwards, that solves that problem. But then you need another station. You need a station that says, wait here until you're needed. But then the train has to go all the way through the stacker to that station before it then realises it's needed. Whereas in this system, it just goes straight away when it's full. So, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, really. Which I guess is why people use Logistics Train Network as a mod, because that solves that problem. Okay, so we can do the good bit now, and that's get rid of the starter base. So I've got a deconstruction planner here. Please leave me everything that brings the power around, and the actual roboports themselves. The rest of it, just go. I've already deleted them all. And let's just get rid of the base, shall we? How much does our roboport coverage actually hold? This much. Alright, there you go. Goodbye. Forever. This isn't foolproof, obviously. We don't make glass in the base anywhere. We don't make silicon in the base anywhere to bring in. But, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I just wanted this done. This will bring so much silicon and glass over to us anyway. Oh god. There's 5,000 construction robots currently. I should have left the radars on as well, I suppose. And then I'll need to go around. I'll just expand the roboport network just to pick these up by hand. And then we need to keep this because this is still generating a lot of power up here. So we'll keep this, but that's why you keep the... you blacklist everything that carries power around, and then you can just tidy that up manually afterwards. So yeah, hopefully Mall 2.0 is okay. I'll need to add a few more things. I've not carried any of the military stuff over. I'm just done with the military now. I'm pretty sure the way forward is just going to be keep an eye on the pollution cloud and make sure I've always got some virus capsules in my back pocket should the worst happen. But I can make virus capsules very easily anyway. So military is done. I'm not going to add more Spidertrons. I'm not going to change my power armor ever again. I think it's good. Plus there's a backlog of stuff in the base anyway, so if I want to add 1 or 2 more Spidertrons, I've probably got the stuff here anyway. Yikes. Hey, there's a logistics robot there. What are you doing, man? 45 logistics robots. Get out of there. Get your head in the game. 116 construction robots. What's going on? Anyway, I don't know. So, this will take a good amount of time to fix, but that's okay. Can just let science plough through, let the pollution cloud shrink even more. See, this is working brilliantly now. So yeah, cool. This is probably awful for the YouTube compression algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please let me know with a like or a comment. And if you want to see more Krastorio Megabase, be sure to subscribe. I had a quick look at the calendar, as I so often do. Should be plenty of time to get this done before Space Age comes out. If there's 2 episodes a week, it gives me about another 18 episodes between when I'm recording this, which is the 31st of July. But this one probably doesn't go live for about a week now. We should be good. We should have plenty of time. Most of the hard work will be designing the modules, and then once we've done most of that, we can just copy and paste them a whole bunch of times. Anyway, I don't know why I'm still talking, even though I did the outro. Done the outro already, so I guess I just have to say goodbye now. Goodbye.